Good morning, Janice.
Good morning, Anthony.
Today we have a real-world example of a solo Agers estate plan, and the question is, did her estate plan work? We're going to share this real-world example about whether or not the solo Agers estate plan actually worked towards the end of her life. And as always, we're going to anonymize to protect my client's anonymity, but keep it as close to the real-world details so that you actually get a flavor for what happens out there. Yeah.
Interesting. So today we're going to summarize, or we're going to discuss her plan. It was a DIY will plus a professional executor. What went right with her estate plan? What went wrong with her estate plan? And why a trust could have been a little bit better. Perfect.
All right. So let's first give you the background information and talk about her plan, and then sort of what happened recently that kind of put the plan into action. So Miss H is a solo ager. That means, she's unmarried, no kids, and she's actually estranged from the vast majority of her family, and she wanted to keep it that way. She expressed to me very clearly, to the extent where she prepared like a notarized letter to me, just confirming, I do not want my family notified even.
Wow.
Well, quote marks my family, because she just doesn't really didn't consider them her family. You can only notify them of my passing to the extent that you're legally required to, because I did mention to her that during probate we might have to. The DIY will that she did was fine. It was okay. I mean, again, generally we don't recommend that, but I understand that this happens, and it would work. And thankfully, she had it supervised. Her signing was supervised by an attorney, so all the technical formalities were done correctly. And I'm basically confident the will would pass legal requirements if needed. Okay.
Oh, good.
So here's what happened. Mrs. H has not passed on, and that's an important distinction. Most people think a will or estate plan is just kind of what you need for when you pass, but for solo agers in particular, your estate plan actually helps protect you during your life. And in particular towards the end, I hate to put a timer on it, but when you're more vulnerable and perhaps closer to the end, your estate plan can actually help you and comfort you and protect you towards the end. And we're kind of seeing that with Miss H right now. So Miss H is about a decade older now, and she's been in decline. Her health, nothing specific, just general, kind of getting older, getting more frail, getting more vulnerable. So she was checked into a hospital, I think last week, for lack of self-care. Do you know what that means, Janice? Are you familiar with that?
I do. Do you want to explain it a little more
I want to make sure I understand it correctly, so I would like to hear what you what your understanding.
It's a lack of self-care. A lot of I would imagine that if an older person is living alone, like self-care to me is bathing, showering, basic human needs like personal hygiene, things like that.
That's definitely part of it. Exactly. But the hygiene is definitely part of it. But the reason she was checked in was just she was a little malnourished. She was definitely dehydrated, and she just lacked. Her health was she was suffering because she was unable to take care of her basic needs.
Right.
So now she is potentially heading to assisted living, possibly a nursing home. She will most likely not return home from this hospital stay. I mean, it's just not. The medical staff has determined that's just not, that's not a good idea.
She'll get the care that she needs. She won't be dehydrated. She'll get water.
Exactly.
Yes.
But I just want to make clear, it's definitely clear that she's lost a step, and she has at least diminished capacity, if not fully lost, mental capability to express her legal wishes. Right.
Right.
All right. So that's where we're at. So what happened? What went right with her estate plan? So because she had a will in place with me actually as her professional executor, we were able to fend off or avoid a court-appointed stranger, right? That's my little term of art for any situation where the court or the system, because it's not always through the courts, will assign somebody to you who has kind of more power than you might like over, more say-so over your care and your finances and just over your life.
Yeah, we've talked about that before. That might be a good link to a past podcast where what can go wrong with somebody appointed that you don't know and that has all that power.
Yeah, so in the absence of somebody of her own choosing, Miss H probably would have been either saddled with maybe a social worker who she had never met before. That would be someone, from the system. Or worse, the court might appoint a guardian for her, which would be just kind of a random attorney or volunteer to have total legal authority over her affairs. And that's not great.
No.
Miss H chose me. We spoke, we interviewed over a decade ago. So I am the person of her choosing. I am her team, and I think that gives her. I can't speak for her, but I think that gives her some comfort knowing that. Oh yeah, there's Anthony. He knows my wishes, or at least as I expressed them to him 10 years ago, over the past 10 years, and he's going to take care of things. It's not some random person. Yeah.
Right. That seems like it'd be such a bonus because she did get to talk to you and tell you, whereas now a stranger may never meet or talk with her, right, to know exactly what she wanted when she was not in the diminished capacity.
Right. Now, here's a little twist. I didn't mention this in the background. Kind of out of the blue-ish, her family has now gotten involved again. And this happens all the time. And I don't, towards the end, family sort of emerges, and it's not necessarily sinister. It's not like the movies where you have like these gold diggers. It's not like that.
No,
but it's definitely gray, right? Like because Miss H clearly expressed she does not want her family involved, and I think I made it clear that was her strong wish. But everyone towards the end may waver, right? May have last minute changes of heart just to have a final reconnection, perhaps.
Right.
So these cousins, I think it was, they got involved, but because it seems like because they knew that there was an attorney and a professional executor involved, there really hasn't been any attempts to sort of get into the money, as it were.
Okay, so more of an emotional connection than a financial connection.
So I haven't said anything. I haven't sent any threatening letters or anything like that. But I think my existence.
Yeah, just because you're on her team, maybe?
Yeah. They know there's somebody in place who happens to be an attorney who's in charge of the finances. So they're just let's not even look at that. So I think it's almost like what do you call it? I don't want to call myself this, but a scarecrow or something like that.
Yeah, like it's almost like it's like a safety net, like you're there and just kind of, yep.
And then lastly, I am the emergency contact with the hospital, the physicians, and I have been helping coordinate. And this is in case anyone out there wonders, okay, what does a professional executor do for you during your life? I am coordinating with the transfer from the hospital to the nursing home. Some of those care decisions, I'm happy for the family to be involved with if that gives Miss H comfort. But I am the main point of contact for all those institutions, and they actually appreciate having somebody to talk to. Otherwise, it's kind of like, do we have to get her a social worker? Do we have to contact Medicaid? Right. They like that somebody's there. It really creates some cohesion to the plan for Miss H. Yeah,
I'd imagine it put them in limbo a little bit too if she didn't have anyone that they could ask where should she go and what's the plan.
Yep. And I do have So actually, let me jump on to the next subsection where we're going to talk about what was not quite right. What was actually a little bit wrong with her estate plan? So everything I described, it's working out well so far, but if things got hairy, this is not actually the best plan. So here's the reason why. I actually don't have control of Miss H's assets right now, right? An executor's powers, my powers don't exist until she passes, right?
Yep.
So if somebody actually legally challenged and fought for control of her assets, I'd have a position, I'd have a basis for fighting back. But if we had a trust and I was the trustee, I would be in control now, right? I don't know if that's, I would be able to strongly defend now. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Right. As opposed to I'd be a known person with a kind of a right to fight for her. That just means more litigation and more
litigation, more money, more time.
Yeah.
How long would that take to actually go through that process?
Yeah. Thankfully, it's not working out that way. Just my existence as an attorney with a title has been enough. But I'm just pointing out that if push came to shove, I don't have all the tools that I would have if I were a trustee.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yes, even now, if the family were unscrupulous, and I don't think they are, they seem very, very nice people, who just don't, have a relationship with her or who have only recently.
Right.
But if they were unscrupulous people, this is a time where, suddenly new wills get done. Do you know what?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I don't believe Miss H has, I think it's borderline if Miss H has capacity to make a new will that would contradict, 10 years of prior 10 years of wishes when she was of full, vigor.
Right. Of affidavits that she wanted the family kind of put to the side where now it would change. That could be interesting.
Not sure if she's in a strong enough state to sort of upend all that. And that's tough because people do change their minds, right? You don't want to be locked into your decisions from the past forever. But, my job is to protect the wishes as she's expressed them consistently over years, right?
Right.
So, yes, an unscrupulous and sort of persuasive, Johnny-come-lately could try to persuade her to do a new will. If we had a trust, that would be much harder to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the trust is another level of protection
during your life, correct?
Yes, during your life. Yeah.
Because the wills can be swapped out, right? Like as we just said, a new will can be done. You can grab their form and guide their signature, which we've seen.
We have. Yes.
Equally. All right. So that actually that covers my final point that a trust would have or could have been better. Even stronger protection against the court-appointed stranger or the Johnny-come-lately family member. And I'd be able to do more to help. As a trustee, I would have actual access to funds as opposed to, as an executor, my powers don't kick in until after Miss H passes. But if, for example, we wanted to upgrade her to kind of more luxurious care, I'd have access to funds and make that happen. Right now, she's limited to whatever Medicare or Medicaid will allow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe not luxurious. Let's call it more comfortable.
I know.
Make it sound like Thurston Howell the Third or something.
I knew what you meant. I
Okay.
think everyone knows what you meant. You maybe find the one place that's just a little nicer, or
So I guess to wrap it up, bottom line is yes, having a will and a named professional in place really did create some barriers and like a sort of a sentry and some protections during my solo ager's life. But I do want to point out and use this anecdote to show that, yes, if things, got twisted a little bit, then having a trust would be much stronger and we'd be even in better shape. Yeah.
Okay. Very interesting stuff. If you want to learn more, definitely check out Anthony's book, The Solo Ager Estate Plan, specifically for the single childless seniors that are going through this right now and planning for that. Available at Amazon and on your website.
That's right. Okay. I think that's all for today. I hope you guys enjoy these anecdotes, real world stories about what actually happens out there. A lot better than some of the stuff I'm seeing on Google, hopefully.
Yes.
Thanks, Janice, as always, and thank you everyone for listening. Talk to you next time.
Talk soon.